Hello, 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 hello. Go see if you can. Hello. Here. Hello, hello, hello. Hello, it's Steve. You're back up. Go see if you can hear it on. Yes, sir. Make it happen in here.
Why does it look like we're gonna have a meeting here?
Yeah, they got a DWI trial that they started at late in the evening. Can you hear me, John? Can you hear me? We are live.
Thank you, sir.
We started. Hey, can you see where Robbie's at? 6 o'clock.
He was in the, he was here for this.
You said Rob?
Yeah. He got that. We know.
He three.
Yeah.
Thing.
Oh, it went back here, we came in and I got my.
Yeah.
Well, by me, he said, he went to gym.
Yeah.
Get that drink. Yes.
Bad as stuff. I know.
Anybody else?
It's me and that.
He's navigating them. Yes.
Sir.
Yeah, thank you, sir. You're right. Commercial. Hey, I was going to say, neighbor, there he is. You see all the.
My bad.
Oh, if we don't do it.
Yes. Yeah, he's on his own. Somebody else in the lobby.
Thank you, chief. You say all the boxes was on the way?
Yes. And he's on the way.
Start. Is everybody ready? We'll take care of the odds and ends before. I'd like to call this meeting of the Homeland Board of Aldermen to order. We have important topics tonight. Appreciate all the department heads being here also. At this time, I'd like to call on Alderman Bledsoe for our, invocation.
Everybody here, please. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for the city of Horn Lake. And thank you for dying on the cross for all our sins, and everybody may accept you and get to heaven. And thank you for all this political stuff that it may be settled down and everybody think that what's good for the country. And thank you again for the city of Horn Lake and all the people who work here and be with us on this budget and we get it solved and be with everybody and keep them safe and be with my brother and help him get through his leukemia. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
All right, please stand. We have a pledge of allegiance led by Alderman David Young.
And salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Alderman Klein,
Here.
Alderman Bledsoe,
Here.
Alderman Geis,
Here.
Alderman Johnson, Alderman Free. Here. Alderman Young.
Here.
Did you have any idea when Alderman Johnson?
I think it's good, sir. Just walking with.
You know, everybody is really getting a lot of thought. We want to do what's best for all of our employees, for the taxpayers, and for the citizens of Horn Lake. You say Alderman Bostic is.
He's here.
Yeah, I think I stopped where Jim's office.
All right, number one is the vote on municipal docket. Do we have a motion?
Mayor,
Alderman Geis,
make a motion to approve the municipal document.
do we have a second?
Second.
second by Alderman Bledsoe. Motion by Alderman Guy, second by Alderman Bledsoe. Is there any discussion? Roll call, please.
Alderman Young. Aye. Alderman Free.
Aye.
Alderman Johnson.
Aye.
Alderman Geis.
Aye.
Alderman Bledsoe.
Aye.
Alderman Klein.
Aye. All right, motion carries 6 in favor, 1 absent. All right, number 2 is the consent agenda. Alderman Bledsoe.
Mayor, I'd like to make a suggestion, we move the executive session up to, right after consent agenda. So they can get out of here if they're here.
Is anybody here connected with the executive session?
There.
There's no one here, do you?
Just leave it alone.
Mayor,
Alderman Clarence.
I'd like to move the item in consent agenda B to executive session.
All right, sir. Is that all right? Anybody object? Hey, Alderman. Okay. Move B down to executive session. All right. Do we have a motion on the consent agenda, Mayor, taking out letter B?
Mayor,
Alderman Guys.
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda items A, C, D, E, F, and G, moving B to the executive session.
We have a motion by Alderman Guys. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Alderman Dupree. Is there any discussion? Roll call, please.
Alderman Klein.
Aye.
Alderman Bledsoe. Alderman Guy.
Aye.
Alderman Bostic. Alderman Johnson.
Aye.
Alderman Dupree.
Aye.
Alderman Young.
Motion carries 7 in favor, none opposed. All right. Now we're down to why we. The people are here. All right, Mr. Jim, would you want to, silence my phone, talk about, I think we just got a brand new Highland Press budget sheet, didn't we?
Yes, if I can, I'll get it pulled up here. Trying to make it bigger up there, but, I'll, this will,
Revenues are the same.
They are, I did want to go through this, you'll see in your packet, all of the changes that took place after the last board meeting in that brownish color. One good thing about, the budget workshops, you can work through things and catch, numbers and everything, and I had actually had a higher number, it was like 191 for the police alcohol grant. So that is what is actually in the paperwork. So just going through, line by line, re-looking at emails and everything. That is this year's grant, that, Steve Poland had sent me those figures and I had updated that, so that dropped. The second page of your revenue, what it dropped, we went ahead and bumped up ambulance billing. Steve Linville has said, and just so you'll know, the two middle columns, last week, everybody was saying, well, you still have this amount in there. I updated, those are year-to-date numbers as of, Friday. So everything in the year-to-date actual is what we've brought in, and in the departments, it's actually what we have spent. So there was a little question on that last time, so, Pete Linville has brought in almost 600,000 in ambulance billing, and we still have more to come.
That's great.
But I will tell you, and I mentioned this one other time, when I came here 9 years ago, that had been at 200,000 year after year after year after year. It never hardly moved off 200,000. And since they've gone with the billing company, it just grows and grows each year. But I know for 5 years straight, it was just stuck on 200,000. Yes, sorry.
Well, and also the 250.
Well, saying that, yes, sir, all that was, but it was just increased just a few months ago, and you're always, we're gonna see a bigger trend next year, feel like, but we gotta get in it and see, really. I don't wanna promise you the world, but I told Jim, I thought we would probably go over 7 next year, but I don't wanna kill a cow before we get there, cause it may go down. They may quit calling for an ambulance. I don't know when.
So that revenue number has not changed, but I will mention again, just, so I mentioned this before and have mentioned it in years past. Ad valorem, next year, we're budgeting 9,868,000, that very first line that they're over. And legally, that's what the assessed value that we get from the city, we calculate that, and that's what we can, project. But I will tell you, since I've been here for 9 years, I could print out year-to-date actuals, and we always miss that by 200,000 or a little bit more. And again, like I've mentioned, that's based on assessed value, and if for some reason people don't pay taxes, which each year they don't, on their properties or businesses and everything, you know, they do have the tax sale, but for some reason, it just never catches up. But I did want to mention that you could go back and do a 10-year printout, and we put the assessed value in there and what we bring in, but notoriously, that is gonna be off by 200,000. That's why everybody always says, well, just bump up the revenue, but I already know, we're not gonna make that, even though legally, that's what our assessed value is, and we can put that, and we can budget that. So the revenue, remains the same at 30,879,212.
And question,
Oh,
so knowing that it's gonna probably fall 200,000, can we kind of allow for that, or you don't? Are you allowing for that somewhere in here, or is that figured at this 9,868,000?
No, that's the legal amount that our assessed value says we're gonna bring in that amount. But again, you know, we could, a lot of the other line items are, you know, crossing our fingers, hoping we're gonna make it. Some of these numbers are, sales tax, for instance, you know, we kind of kept that flat, but we may go over that, next year. If, you know, we're right now at almost 6.5 million for year-to-date actual. And we should, hit budget at 7.5. So hopefully we'll make that. We know the 2.3 million, we're gonna, make that in internet sales because of what we've already got year to date. I updated that. We've got 2.1 million in the municipal infrastructure funds right there, kind of in the middle of the first page. I budgeted, 2.3 million.
Now, if that's where you assign to, and I apologize for all the questions, but I'm sure I saw it.
Street.
Goes to street, and does that shows up somewhere else?
It does, just so since you asked that question, if you go down here to 901, from the bottom, is municipal street maintenance project is 3.2. Because you also saw up there on that first page, not only the funds that we're bringing in, but also the funds from prior year that, the project hasn't spent yet.
Carries over.
Yes, it carries over. That's the revenue. Any questions on the revenue? And again, on these, the brownish highlighted areas are the things that change. And there's some additional numbers on there. The red, italicized numbers, that's the number, we had requested all the department heads to come off of their budget by 1%. What I did, I took the budget, if you look at last week's, number, I took 1% off of that, and that red number is the 1% that they were supposed to come down to. That's the figure they were supposed to meet. And obviously some departments, the executive department, we took out the mayor's raise and, you know, that affected the FICA and everything, so that actually came below. It took out more than the 177,239 that it was supposed to come. So everybody follow me on that. The red is what they were supposed to cut, each department was supposed to come down to, but you'll see that bold number above it is what it actually came down to. So executive came down more than 1%.
And all the numbers are on that suggest this is the way to get that involved of it. Everybody got 1%, and then you work, go from there. Thank you for the good idea.
The legislative, which is the alderman, we took out, that's the next page down, in taking out the increases, it actually, you can see, came in lower, or more than the 1%, because all it had to come down to is 212, and it came down to 208. So there'll be some branches that come in a little under that, but the first two have come in lower than 1%.
Well, Sean,
Pardon?
question.
Mhm.
All right, so kind of got to break down now. The mayor, the executive is the mayor and Miss Julie, right?
Yes.
And mayor, you didn't take a raise again this year, from which you pretty much gave your raise and you can pay the aides. Yeah, you. And I talked to some of the department heads. I'm under the impression that the workman comp came in $50,000 less this year. Are these numbers reflecting that 50,000 less?
The brown areas, everybody's workman's comp was adjusted by what it came in at. Yes, except but the liability insurance went up 120,000, so.
That's good. So it kind of ate up.
It did. And I'll talk about that.
Right.
Workman's comp came in better, but the liability jumped over 100,000. But yes, every department, you'll see that workman's comp line is highlighted in the brownish color, salmon or whatever it is.
Okay, yeah.
All right, court. I've got an extra column on this. I created an extra column, and Miss Tara had an appointment and was not able to make it. Miss Tara dropped hers, I think, $1,000. What I did with this one, the 681,717 was what you all had last budget. So it had to drop 1% from that number. It had to drop to 674,899, and that requested column that I left in there that was presented to you before, when she took out $2,000 in professional services. So that dropped it to 27970. That's with the 2100. That last column, she kept the raises that she requested last time. So her actual request still is the 680,357. So it's about 6,000 short of coming down from what we needed it to come down to balance the budget.
That's the only department. That's the only department that has not come down that 1%, correct?
Yes,
Why is that?
that's just what she presented.
Everybody else does it. Shouldn't all follow suit.
I sent out an email, asked everybody to do the 2100, kept 1%. And I know you're looking at a lot of fresh numbers. Everybody turned stuff in, and that's what's before you. I wanted to try to get it in for this meeting so we get closer. We're still 16,000 loss. But yes, I mean that. And we can go through the other departments, but everybody did, except Court, dropped to 1% or very close to it.
Now that does reflect her holding on to her $30,000 that she rolled into the pay raises for 6 or 7 people. So is that correct? That's what the blue is.
Yeah, that blue is what I presented to you all at the 2100. This has the 2100 in the 392,400. She had put that in her line, moved it up to the salary and wages. Since I put it back to 2100 in that requested column, I put her 30,000 back in there for the alternate judge. But then she submitted again the 417,000. So I left that line blank. The one you saw last meeting did have 30,000 back in there for judge. They're saying they don't need a extra judge. But they moved that into the 470.
So if we take 30,000 out, she's at 674 and we meet budget. We just give them 2,100 across the board, we meet budget. Is that what I'm understanding?
Well, I mean, if you take 30,000 out of that, we'd have a surplus. I mean, if you took.
But we still gotta give 2,100, which is not reflected in here, right?
The 2,100 is.
It's in the 417, so we just pull the 30 out.
No, it's reflected in the 392.
392, okay. So it is there plus it, so we just need to pull the 30 out. And we meet budget,
Yeah, we'd have a surplus.
June,
plus $1,035.
they only used 2,000 when he had the 30,000. Well, that's $28,000 for that.
I mean, Judge Murphy doesn't miss that much. If he has to miss, they would have to pay another judge.
That comes up as
Sit.
professional service, correct?
In her budget, she's always had it in contract with.
I mean, instead of doing the 30, you could put 5 and we'd be covered, more than likely. If she had to use another judge.
Oh, there you go.
So that's 19,000. 16, that'd be 14.
Mr. Jim, did she say why she wanted to keep that at 30,000?
She did not want to keep that.
She didn't, okay.
He wrote it out
Okay,
in that
gotcha.
last column, and he put the money up in the 417. He requested last board meeting, for, and it was in that letter, different raises, other than the 21.
So they wouldn't get they get 2,100 only, they're not gonna get 7% or whatever it was, right?
If we remove it.
Yeah, that,
If you keep the 392, they get 21.
Where's that 30? I'm not following.
Yeah.
Wait,
The blue.
It's in the blue.
Yeah, I see it.
But she zeroed it out, right, Jim?
yes.
You put it back, is that what you're saying?
No, she made the 392 up to 417. She put some money out of that 30.
Oh,
and
see that?
raised it.
Yeah, okay.
The way I look at this, that's not her money. That's the people who make money. That's her tax recognition. So she don't get to move her money. I understand what she wants to do, and I think it's great that she's doing that for her people. I really, really do. All these department heads fighting for their people. But this is the budget that some of us knew was coming. So, I mean, we gotta do what we gotta do. So,
I've got a question on that.
Yes.
If we asked them to cut their budget, her budget 1%, did she do that at all? Okay, so what's 1% of 681,000?
It's just like
six,
$6,800.
So instead of taking 6,000, we're gonna take 30,000 from her budget?
No, I think it's 14. That, but the red italicized is what the budget should have come down to for 1%.
She didn't make that, right?
Correct. It is about a little,
She made
little under
6,000.
6,000.
So with,
But she took about 1,000 already.
you know, she took that with $1,000 out of the 1% we requested.
So all we need now from her budget is about 6,000 then, right? Not 30,000.
If you're gonna do, yeah, keep her at 1%, yes.
Within your budget, it's not going to be
Then
bad.
your budget's not gonna balance. That's surplus money.
You'll have to go through other departments and cut some more out.
And see, I would like to interject too, that, you know, if say other departments wanted to do the same thing, it's very difficult to, when you get into that. Because first of all, she can't hire a judge next year because she don't have that extra money to cover that judge. Unless you're taking it out of what, professional services.
I mean, she dropped professional services a little bit. And then I dropped the work with comp to reflect what it really is.
Kind of like, hey, if you want to hire a judge, you can't. You know,
And that makes me nervous.
and that,
Does that come out of professional services? She needs to hire an extra judge, when it come out of professional services.
That's correct.
she just won't have as much in a lot of sober, but she's not spending that.
But she didn't spend, but she had $2,000 what she spent.
she got rid of that judge. I think it was Sanders.
Yeah.
And she just dealt with one specific thing and her people started handling it, and there wasn't a need, because Sanders couldn't actually, I don't think, fill in as the alternate judge anymore. Because she's not a lawyer.
Alvin Young.
Professional services, if you look at it last year for 50 grand, she only spent 30. She still has 20,500 some change. So she's not even spending all of her professional services. So that money's still sitting there. The point is, this 30,000, she moved that up to her wages and salaries, even though we request them to move it down to cut 1%. Instead of cutting 1%, she went up. I wish we could give everybody $5,000 raise or a city owner. But the other side of this coin is if we do this, if we let that 30,000 sit there or only cut it 6,000 or whatever comes up, how we gonna cover that next year? Because folks, this budget ain't gonna get no easier.
Well, and that 30,000, if you did do something like that, you'd have to make it budget neutral, I guess, it would be the term where
Right.
it's got your,
And if we
all
don't
your
take
other
it,
charges built in there to cover it.
you're exactly right. And if we don't take it, we can't balance our budget. By law, we have to have a balanced budget. Well, I understand that, but we're setting a precedence
Yes.
that any one of these department heads back and go say, oh, I'm just gonna hold on my surplus money and I'm gonna give it to my people and y'all can't do anything.
Still on contract personnel.
With a,
It wouldn't be a raise, it'd be still on contract personnel.
well, I understand. And I'm saying the 30,000, that's the 50,000 is her contract personnel, the same it was last year.
You're talking about professional service.
Professional services, yeah. So contract personnel, we don't need that. She doesn't need that. We already said you can't hire a judge for $30,000. So that's money sitting there that we need to put into our bottom line to balance the budget and give us a little fluff. We don't know what's, I mean, it doesn't give us a month. What, it gives us about $2,100, $2,200 when all said and done.
If
Cause
you
there's others.
got, say 17,000, that leave 13,000 in that line that you could put in her department anywhere, or actually move to some other department.
Now, all of a sudden she needs a judge.
So she's got the professional services, so, and she's got, you can still leave, Mr. Billy.
So this budget should be good through what, end of September?
Of next year.
I mean, what we're working on, but
Yes.
this 30,000 is figured in our budget this year for. So
Yeah.
I guess playing devil's advocate, all of a sudden she needs to hire that extra judge, which she can grab it from that line item.
Yeah, but where would that come from? Would it come from professional services or contract?
From what I understand from Jim is she takes it with contract personnel. I don't know what she pays out of professional services. I know she has a Syscon software for her court department and other things. And so Jim says she's been paying it out of contract personnel, so that's where I would expect. Unless the board going to increase the services line to allow her to be able to hire a judge for a day or two.
She's only 2,000.
That's what I'm saying. She's only used $2,000 all year so far. I have a hard time understanding what she needs $30,000 for.
I mean, nobody can tell the future.
But I understand that, but I'm saying I can tell with the reports, and that's a lack of the budget. That's what I'm saying. We got balance.
But if we just leave that contract thing at $6,000, I give her 4,000 extra in case she had to rent a judge.
Yeah, it wasn't, just took 17 and leave the 13 in there. It would give the plenty of.
With the budget about,
That was,
there you go.
you took 17,000 out of there. They would do it.
But we're not,
13,000 in contract personnel.
are we gonna allow the remainder of that money to be used for pay raises in her department?
That's up to y'all. I don't think so.
I don't think so. I mean, it's not fair to everybody.
So where does it go?
It just sits there in case she needs it.
No, Mayor, and I know we keep hearing it's not fair, but in the past, we have often given other departments bigger raises than anybody else. We've done police, we've done fire, we increased the pay on some code people, we've increased the pay in planning, we've increased the pay on city hall. So, it's not like we haven't done that before. It's my opinion on it. She's got some people over there that work hard, like they all do, but they're underpaid. And if we can take out money out of either professional services or some of our contract personnel to cover that shortfall, and the remaining, if she doesn't want that judge, put it toward her raises, she may not get what she wants, but they'll get a little more. And all that, and if she comes back to us and says, 6 months into the next budget year, I need a judge, the answer is, sorry, you got rid of your judge and you're gonna have to deal with what you've got.
That's why we have the rainy day.
Yes, sir. She's got a lot of money left for professional services, and I would think part of that could be her people that collect the fines and all that, would that come out of there? And things like that.
Yeah, excuse me to interrupt you, but she's got remember y'all, we have a contract with this firm that she hasn't been able to utilize much. Chief Unlimited utilizes a collection agency, brings over $600,000. She doesn't utilize very much. I think last time she got $1,000.
Yeah.
Because she says she doesn't have time to do it. And I'm not running down Miss Tara, but I thank the world of Miss Tara. But we have got to come up with 16-something thousand dollars. Actually, y'all do, but it's your budget. Y'all vote on it. I don't vote on it. All of Boston.
I was just looking at the machinery and equipment right there. She's spent less than $500. That's $7,500 right there. I think if this could work and make the budget and get those rates that are close to it, if we actually broke down these numbers right here. There are some people over there that are for the adequate raise. I agree with Alderman Dice that we have done it in the past for other departments. I don't think any other one have a problem with maybe their 3 employees or whatever it is that we need to keep it.
Or we could do something like I don't know if her raise includes as judges and all that stuff, but you could give the raise just to the clerical staff and not use all that money either.
I wish she were here. I don't know what she wants to raise her salary up to. I don't know.
Whatever is done, you can't take the whole 30,000 or whatever and then add to taking the extra benefits, to the negative part of it.
But if she wanna take the whole 30 and just divide it by the number of employees, that's what she wants to do.
I think that was her original plan.
That'd be.
$5,000 per.
That's 5,000 in addition to
No,
It's 5,000 total per person.
there's no way to do that, that amount, but you could, 3 or 4 of the clerks, that is the lowest paid, not the department head.
Raised everybody up to at least $15 an hour. How does that affect our group? Cause I'm thinking she was saying some of the papers she's paying this amount.
Everybody was already above that.
You know,
Part-time that he requested. But that position is filled. Playing the other branches, we, our departments. Part-time people start out at like 13. Or requesting her to come up to 13, but all her staff have been here and those levels are higher than $15 anyway.
how much, do you have it like handy, or pay rated for her employees? In that position?
Not here,
Is it up to $20?
yeah, some are over $20.
So it's Alderman Bostic was saying though, taking a look at her machinery and equipment and also her office supplies. It's saying to be adjusted from what it looks like.
You don't have to give her the whole.
You don't.
If the board wishes to increase up below 2,100, then you just subtract whatever you wanna give them times 6 and take it out of the 30,000. Alderman Young.
You're right. My problem is 2 wrongs don't make a right. And maybe it was done in the past. I just got a hard time digesting knowing that police officers, firefighters are out there right now doing what they do. And we're sitting here looking at giving court department $2,900 more than we're going to get the fire or police or public works or parks or there's regardless of what happened in the past, should not regulate what we're doing now. What we're doing now is trying to balance a budget and fix something that is in front of us that, anyway. It's pretty obvious, and this is no slam at Tara. But to sit here when our COO sits here and says, hey, I need you to cut 1%. The mayor sends out an email, says, I need you to cut 1%. They don't do that, they raise it. I don't. She's a nice lady and everybody in that department works hard and they're doing a good thing. It sounds like to me, you know, she says she doesn't want to fool with the collections. Well, we see what the fire chief gets with collections. Maybe if she wants her to get some more paper, maybe they need to get a little bit more in the collection world. I mean, that's what we just heard. She didn't want to do that. I don't think it's right. I don't think it's fair that we sit here and you know, do that. It's just, there's no way two wrongs make a right. And not saying that other people didn't need that pay raise. I'm sure they did after not having a pay raise for so long. Because of the lack of funds in the city prior to now. Our fire and police, they do a hell of a job, just like everybody else does. But I wouldn't give $2,900 more to park department than I would anybody. I mean, no, it doesn't make any sense. Common sense has got to grab a hold of it somewhere.
Well, we tried to follow, I'm gonna say we, Mr. Jim did all the work. We tried to follow what the board wanted, $2,100 per person. That's what was figured in. It was $2,100 per person. All in the free.
From what I understand, she's gonna need a new server. Her server is outdated, is that correct? And it's gonna need to be upgraded, Mr. Daniel?
That's correct.
Can you speak on that, Sam? If you don't mind?
Sure. We've been trying to get pricing for replacing Syscom software because they no longer support the version she's on, and the server's been out of warranty for 3 years. So that's
Syscon do?
I mean, dollars.
Syscom is the entire district, so basically the ticketing and dispatch, and warrants and everything is per software.
So,
That I don't know because we haven't been able to agree on what direction she wants to go.
have you got that built into your budget?
I'm trying to, but since my budget just got pulled out this year, I really don't know what my real numbers actually are.
Yeah, those numbers reflecting, you're hoping to cover that.
Well, we'll jump ahead to IT, and I had to cut IT. And again, we kind of pulled the department away, and it's their own department. It's kind of a guessing game of what we're going to spend, but machinery and equipment in your prior budget had 400,000. What I sent out to you over the weekend or Friday, it was down to 300,000. Because insurance came back where we thought it was going to come up to 1 thing. Well, insurance came, it increased again just today, about an hour before the meeting. So that line that was 400,000 went down to 280. If we have to buy a server, it will come out of that line. There is a new line item, which we've had that before, and I apologize, I didn't have it in the original budget, but software enhancements. Right now we got 35,000 in there. I don't know if that will cover a new software. Her particular software, it probably could, but if you talk about a full financial software like Munis, it would not.
Yeah.
So that's kind of a guessing game, but yeah, hopefully that answers your question. We are trying to get everything that supports the departments, IT related in an IT budget. So we'll see if we do that. So.
Well, the reason I asked that, is cause I didn't know if it came out of her or IT's. Okay, I understand that.
Right now, it's in hers, it's in professional services, her Dex copiers, any copiers she has over there, that lease is in professional services. So a lot of different contracts.
Okay, so the server comes out of IT and not actually court. Okay, so I guess we go back to court instead.
Probably so.
Daniel, do you have any roundabout figure that might be 100,000, 50,000, 30,000 somewhere?
The vendor, the cheapest end on that would be to say, okay, your server could die tomorrow, so I have to get a new server in here and get them to migrate the software over. The problem is, because they don't support that version anymore, they won't even quote us on that. So, I mean, when software's end of life, it's end of life. There's not much I can do. So you can go a couple different directions with other companies, or Syscom has a software as a service, which I have no pricing on that. I've left that up to her to decide what direction she wants to go, because she's very particular, and what her needs are, and trying to respect that. So, but it's like I'll say, the last 2 days we've been recovering the main file server for PD and for the part of City Hall. Well, we anticipated that server had bad drives. We funded for that in this last budget. We've been working on staging those servers and getting, over 10 terabytes of files onto the new server. Well, Monday morning it decided that was its day. So if that happened on her software and it says, today's my day, there's nothing for us to do. I have no physical hardware to move a backup to, even if we had it. And if we needed to move the backup to something, I have no support from Syscon on getting that done. And it's an operating system that uses Linux, which is not anywhere near Windows. It's not a product that I know. I'd have to get a Linux engineer and contract services on that. So I can't even ballpark tell you.
So it'd be hard to budget.
Yeah, I can't budget it in mine, and if she's pulling that money out of hers, to spend somewhere else, and it's not coming over to IT to support that, then I don't know where it would come from.
How much of that server that you're talking about, where you up here, what would that cost?
Just the server itself, without an operating system at all, that was 10,000.
How many servers does Miss Tara have?
She has one.
She has one. So if it's 10,000, and then the software would be an upgrade of how much?
We don't, because we can't.
If it's 10,000, now we're at 20.
Right. Con is going the way of Munis. Munis after next May will no longer support, will no longer support on-site software, servers or anything. Syscom's already gone that route, but her software is already, if the server dies, they expect you to buy and go to the cloud or go somewhere else. That's why they won't give us a quote on what it would take to migrate her existing server and put it on something brand new, because that's really not what they want. They have one guy supporting that product in the company. So, I mean, from a risk management, that's what I was trying to say. I see a risk, I've got to look at it. Now, you can say, I don't want to do this. And when that day comes and you've said you don't want to do it, then you have to be able to accept that circumstance. I can't make something happen, out of thin air. I'll do my best. But I also can't kill myself over those situations when we can plan not be there.
So can we run a cost analysis if that system crashed and what is it?
I've been trying to get numbers from her current vendor just to to bare bones it. They will not give us a number. Jim and the mayor have been on those emails. And as far as the software to move off of that completely or to go to their newer stuff, I've been relying on Tara to give me that number, but it doesn't sound like she wants to move that direction at this time. And I don't really want to get in the middle of all that publicly.
Hey, in a year or so, we're gonna have to.
Well, it could be tomorrow. The server's been out of,
Crash.
it's been out of, I mean, if the server had any type of a hardware problem tomorrow, it's a Dell server. I could not call Dell and get a service technician out here tomorrow to replace hard drive, power supplies, any of the parts. I've looked at what the parts would have to be. They don't manufacture the parts for that server. But the server's dead. And at that point, you've got to figure out what you're gonna do.
Start from scratch.
Yeah, and you've got to build something and you've got to have something to restore to, but without Syscon supporting us on restoring to another server and without us having the capabilities that, you know, I don't have Linux engineers here. I'm not even really a Microsoft engineer, but I pretend to be most days of the week. You know, that's gonna be a cost that I'm gonna have to bring somebody in to do that for us. You know, I can only be spread out around so many different things. And I think that's one of the things I showed Jim with my budget, that, you know, I could throw a security engineer in, a network engineer, server engineers. There's about 10 hats that we're floating between two people and. Mayor.
Made total sense. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just thinking about this, we're sitting here looking at a server upgrade that we're necessarily gonna have to do. I'm gonna tell you, would you not say within the next 300 days, 300, before the next budget? It could happen tomorrow.
Yesterday, right.
Right. And it's, like I
So
said,
I
Monday
would-
came in and we
I
bought.
would think that trying to get proactive in this instead of worrying about the past, I think trying to get proactive in this, we probably need to take that $30,000, put it into IT strictly for server upgrade. Because without that server upgrade in there, we're not gonna have ports, we're not gonna have traffic, we're not gonna have anything. And if you look at how much that revenue is, what that revenue is, that's gonna domino affect a lot of things in this building.
And then, can I ask, I think I asked you before, but for the benefit of the board and the citizens, if that crashes, all our court records will be gone, is that correct?
Records will be frozen in the Syscon software sitting on a backup drive. So you have a USB drive with a lot of data on it, you have nowhere to retrieve it.
You can't get to it.
I can't do anything with it.
And so like all the records of fines and who owns it.
Yeah, we'll have to pay somebody to track that data and get it. If that becomes the case. I mean, I don't know anything about Syscon because it's written in Linux. Any type of support with them, has to go through them. Any type of, I mean, even if we plug in a new, magnetic card reader, we've got to get them to go in and configure all the background pieces because it's written in script code. And I'm not a script guy. Linux is completely, you don't click and open a window to make a choice. It is, you have to understand coding to do it. And that's outside of my ballpark. I'll be honest about that. But.
Appreciate that.
Well, I will say, we are anticipating, and that's, we have to get, but, that 280,000 is there for whatever servers and equipment that we need. I do believe, without getting in the system and looking, but I think he pays, Syscon, $23.32 every quarter, so it's about $10,000 for Syscon, which, if we did an upgrade enhancement, you know, we have enough money in, IT there, just to share.
Okay, boy, what do y'all wanna do? We're gonna have to move on, we're gonna be here to daylight. We spent our own basically one page. We had a lot of questions there. We did. We went through, there's all of them.
So what I'm understanding, you just said the money is in there at the, is that correct? Is that what I heard?
Yeah, we're hoping that, well, we're anticipating that and we don't know what else, what overtime is gonna go.
When I ran my numbers on what we're paying for and what we're doing, it's not gonna be. But like I said, we also, I don't know where all the numbers you came with my budget from anyway. So we don't have a line item per department.
Some of that is still in the 901, budget. You know, our Munis, the payment for our Munis software is still in 901. What we're paying Oracle, the transition over to Oracle is still 901. We haven't completely merged all of that over, as of yet.
Into the IT.
Right.
Mr. Drew wants to address the goal, is that for everybody anything?
All I wanted to say was that, the board is very close to balancing the budget at the 16,000, and I just respectfully request the board to keep an open mind on some of these other, particularly my department. I'm sort of in the same situation as Tara. I don't need the whole department, but I need to pinpoint another employee, and, there's areas that I'm willing to help out to make this happen. So I mean, you just take a look at you know, my budget as well. Perhaps that will help the board.
I mean, if we're gonna do that, why ain't everybody?
I can pitch in a little bit to that too.
Alright, so what was your?
Like, I mean, if we're taking line items to give people employee raises, why can't I do that?
That's a good point. That's what we said when this discussion began, a long time ago. Alderman Platt. Lost my train of thought.
Jim, when you first submitted the first budget, you had their request built into that rate, and we were 200,000 off.
No, the first draft was 1.5 million off.
Wow. Okay, so, but the last one was you got 200,000, and where was, did you have Drew's request built in there and Tara's request and
Yeah, those were,
all built in?
still in there.
Built in to get what they want, and was just 200,000 off.
I think,
Oh, sorry, yeah, last week, yeah, we were still at 200,000. And everybody was, the one we were going off of was, everybody was 2,100, except, the T1, T2. I had put everything back, and then when I asked everybody to remain at the 2,100 and cut 1%, and I will say, Drew cut over 1%. He cut well.
that's 2%.
1%. But Ms. Tara went back to the original instead of staying at 2,100 and dropping. Stevens, street department he is cut more than 1%, almost 2%. So other departments are doing a lot more. You know, they just looked at their numbers, like you guys are looking at some numbers and saying, hey, I'm not spending all of that, not even close, like Alderman Bostic talked about, machinery and equipment, it's only $500, so $2,900 in compression server. They went through and several departments cut more than they were supposed to. But again, like I said, what messed us up was the insurance. We've been pushing them for our numbers, and it went up $120,000 from what we first had in.
and 50,000 that conquered, or savings went towards that,
Yeah.
workman comp.
Does anybody want to make a motion on this part of it, or Alderman Johnson?
Can I ask you something? Can we come back to this one? As Mr. Coleman has said, he's willing to swap and switch. He's here, Miss Tara isn't, so, you know, we were saying, considering things, well, she's not here to speak for it. So we can at least listen to them and see where they may make some other adjustments, and then we can come back to hers.
That's a good idea, but what you're gonna do, instead of just going through the department, we're getting all the departments all mixed up. We've already jumped from here to
Yes.
IT, we go over to 901, and it's just whatever y'all wanna do, because it's your budget.
Well, I've got
Y'all vote on it.
I've got another question that I want to take back to the general funds. And that was one where you've got a unassigned general fund balance, 700,000. What is that?
Well, next year, it's projected to be
600,000.
600,000. What that is our surplus from the following year. If you go down, to the bottom line. No. The second column over there, and I updated all the numbers, so these are year to date. That year to date column, we've got revenue of 24 million, expenses of 23 million. Right now, we have a surplus for this year, 24, of $836,000. Since 2019, when I started in 2015, we were losing money, holding checks, couldn't pay our bills. 2019 was the turning point where we finally started, our cash flow was better. 2019 and on, we've had a surplus within the year. If you look at your audit, I pointed it out last audit that came out, they even talked about on a particular page, the surplus that we have had since, 2019 that has been building up. So each year we have anywhere from 7, 8, 900,000 surplus. So that unassigned is really taking the surplus and using it for next year.
Depending on where, because we're cutting the rainy day fund in half. So we got a surplus, why are we doing that?
To make the budget balance. If you want me to be honest, that is a surplus, and we should end with that. Right now you all have approved some vehicles for police that they want for next year that we are paying for this year, so that'll chip away a little bit of the surplus. You just approved 2 trucks for Stephen tonight, which the same thing, we're gonna purchase this year instead of purchasing next year. But that is an estimate of what I think we will end the year with surplus of 600,000. And again, like I said, some of these numbers, it is, I hate to say it, the budget is a guessing game, but I'd like to get a true as I can budget. When I first started, I met with Chief Whaley, and him and I looked at budgets differently. But the police department and the fire department are our biggest departments, and those pretty much rule the budget because it takes up majority of it. And when I started in 2015, there wasn't a lot to play with, so I was trying to get as true as a budget as I could when I first started here, and I've always done that in every place I've been. I like to have a true operating budget and not, what some people call fluff, or, and I shared with the mayor and some others that this year there's not fluff. This has been and that's why theme workshops have been different than years past. It's harder to come up with this year. Revenue didn't go up that much, but expenses, are climbing faster than revenue, just because of, debt, PERS, more staff. I mean, we're almost fully staffed in our two biggest departments, and we've never been that close. You know, we've always been 14, 15 down in each department, and now we're almost fully staffed. That's why we're feeling the crunch.
Oh, wait till next year. When we are fully staffed.
Everybody's had the chance to say, and so we need to move on, we need to make a decision. This anyone, we don't have to have a motion, I don't think that would be right, but we have to the whole budget.
But at least have a show of hands of, who wants to give court more than $2,100, rate per person, maybe they'll help get it started.
Does anyone wanna follow Mr. Billy's suggestion or bring up something, bring your ideas forward so we can have a vote? Alderman Guy.
I'll start. One thing we need to do is move the minimum of the 6,000 to get the 1% that Jim requested.
Where would you take my votes?
I would take it out of, it doesn't matter to me, out of contract personnel or professional services or office supplies or whatever. We got it, if one department's been asked to do 1%, they all need to. And of course, I've already made my opinion on the raises. If she can do it within what she budgeted, I have no issue with that. If it remain neutral. Police has done, I know it's passed, but the police has done that before. Fire department has done that before, reallocated stuff to give raises. It's not anything new, and you need a department head that wants to do something like that, can submit a letter and a request. Nothing prevents them from doing it.
Or be here.
Or it'll be here. And, Ms. Tara requested it in a letter, and she was at the last meeting, and I understand why she's not here. She brought her daughter to Ole Miss to start college. So
Oh, I know why.
I understand.
I understand that 100%.
And, so, Mr. Box, if you had presented a letter asking to move something for raises, I would be sitting here arguing for you to be able to do so.
So you're saying take the 6,000 out of the, well, it's still we're gonna be $10,000 more. It's gonna have to come out of some of these other people.
Yes.
Who, when requested to lower their budget a 1%, did it.
Yes, sir. So, I would say, let's take what we need to make that 1% for court. And when we get to the end, if we're still short, if we gotta go back to this one and take more, we do. We'd do that to any of them. So,
You're saying reduce that to $24,000.
Well, she reduced a little bit, Mayor. I think we should just say 4,800.
yeah. So, and take it from wherever in there.
But that means we're gonna shave off somebody else as we go along. Alderman Dupree.
Mr. Mayor, I don't feel comfortable with that. And other departments have gone above and beyond their 1%. We shouldn't ask them to do anything.
Alright, so let's just, in the interest of doing something, Alderman Geis, I made a discussion point. How many of you agree with his discussion point? 2, 3, 4, 5, okay? That's it.
What's this discussion point?
something,
Take it six.
at least at 1% for now.
Make her
Yeah.
have 1%.
I
Yeah.
agree.
Like
But
everybody
at
else.
least this,
For us, to come back and consider.
so we can take, just to help with the budget, can we just take 6,000 out of it? I know,
Well, Mr.
I know, Mr. Really correct.
She took $1,360 already.
Well, we got to find the money wherever we can find it. We might need to find more on that line than we need anywhere else.
I mean, from what I figured, she still making 1%, she still had, $5,458.
Well, we might, like Alderman Josh said, we might have to come back and hit that line again. Because if you're straight 1%, you're still in the hole, $16,000.
So if we come back at the end and we're at 14,000, we pull 14,000.
Well, that's my understanding.
If we got to.
That way we can go home before 1 o'clock.
Don't get your hopes up. Okay, is that the, that was okay? All right, so we're reducing that to 24,000? All right, 24,000 some odd dollars.
It depends if you're doing it even or taking the.
Okay, guys, if you take out 6,000, you split out of that
This,
30,000.
that's, to me, out of that per budget, 6,000 is something 1%. If you already did 1,300, whatever that is, and take it out of whichever line item she has the most money sitting in. You know,
Well, you notice, if you will notice, if you look at your columns, the department head on the request, whatever you move that 30,000 over there is gonna jump that column up for over $680,000. As you take that 30,000, see it's zeroed out in department head request. Of course, that'll bring the pay down to 392,400 plus whatever else she wants to give.
you know, if we get to the end of this and we're still short, we're gonna have to go back through, including this one. And no matter what, you know, I want or anybody else, if the money's not there, it's not there.
Okay, so that's gonna be that's gonna be 24,000, right?
That's it.
Next page, please. Financial administration, Mr. Jim.
Yeah, finance, and I can try to
You went up.
figure out some, what, the 1% would be 436,604, so, that one's, about 300 short, that we could get some more. With some of the other departments going over, I just left it at that, but, we can come down there to $300. The executive and, legislative was over the 1%. But that is remaining at the 2,100. And then all the ones highlighted in, brown, those were changed.
Why did the state retire from the financial?
Because we moved IT out of finance and they're in their own department, cause 135,000 salaries went to the, IT department. Which is the next one, and you can see the red italicized for the IT department. 1% would have brought them down to 586,377. And theirs is got to 507, so,
Wow.
almost, 70 plus thousand. It was over 1%, well over 1% for the IT department. Daniel's glaring at me. Well, we had to come up with something for the insurance, and I I know no other department could come up with $120,000. I'm hoping we don't have tons of equipment. It's gonna have to be purchased and still have to come out of 901. I'm not sure they out of IT.
Did you say you took IT because you couldn't take it from somewhere else? Okay. Oh, Jim.
It mainly come out of your 280, cause it was 400,000 there before.
Who's the machinery and
Machine
equipment?
equipment, most of it come.
This time it was 400.
We're just not gonna let it buy stuff.
Well,
Can you rebuild the fiber liability insurance? I don't even know what that number is, if I'm paying this much on insurance.
year to date, we have spent about 260,000. IT has spent that in equipment. So, it'll be, but that is rebuilding a lot of things. You saw the server room before and see what it looks like now. That was replacing a ton of equipment during this renovation. So, my bad.
Remember, as we go along, we're still looking for $10,000 to take out. That's the maximum, but
Keep it up.
So this one was, over 1%.
So,
Back on, step back once just for a minute on financial administration. Under furniture and equipment supplies, it was showing there was 3,500 budgeted and the remaining budget was 3,500 and zeroed out for this year. Is that money going into that? What Alderman Klein mentioned earlier, the budget surplus that was left over, or
No, that
what's happening with that 3,500?
It was 1%.
Oh, so it's right out of one right there, 0.
Okay, so that's where you got 1%.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, part of it, yeah.
Cause I just, you know, I know in a lot of times departments near the end of the year, money's there, they spend it. So I was just curious.
Yeah,
Good place.
we had originally, the original budget that you had last week had $3,000 in. And we cut that $3,000. You know, if somebody's chair breaks down the finance hall, they're gonna have to stay. But we do have some old furniture out in the pods, we can start pulling the old furniture back out.
all right, plan. With you.
Yes. And,
We're looking for $10,000, please.
and I can let the department head speak, but just remember the red italicized is the number that I figured they had to come down to for that 1%. So, Andrew's right there at it.
Right on the money too.
I'll say that I did submit, hashed that and, requested -7,000, but this is reflected -6,125, so I was under that, I was over that 1%.
You were, and some others were too, and
I just wanna put it out there, I went beyond what was requested on that.
he did, and most of it's in professional services. You look at year to date, I just cringe because when I go back and look at like a 3-year trend of what we've done and I go through every single person's line item and look at 3-year trends just so we don't get caught off guard. And I put $1,000 back into that line item because he's got a lot coming out of professional services. Daniel's contacted, RJ Young about getting a plotter scanner, which will hit that once we get that lease. That is a much needed item for the planning department that they have to have to function. So Andrew did come down below that, but I'm sorry, I took the liberty to change that, Alderman Johnson. So
I mean, I think I could give 1,000 from office supplies. We're pretty self-sufficient on that. I mean, we do everything on computer and pen and paper, and I could pitch in 1,000 on that.
So the wages and salaries that reflects the code coming off of them. And how many, does that 341 represent, how many employees?
That's 5.
5?
Well, soon to be 6, you all just approved another.
They moved it to executive session.
Okay, so it's 3 planners, 2 clerical and Charles, so it's 6, folks in there.
So if the board chooses to hire, the gentleman recommended by Mr. Andrew, that 341 is gonna jump up, is that correct?
No.
No, that's included.
On the plotter scanner, we discussed that at the last board meeting. Weren't we gonna try to get that out of this year's budget?
It's a piece of equipment that,
That we would lease.
yeah, that was leased. And it's, it'd be a 5-year lease that would renew, each time, just like our copy.
And a service contract with them.
Right. We'll have pricing on Friday.
Thank you, Mr. Andrew.
Yes, sir.
So now we're looking for.
And again, I will mention, what I sent out Friday, I apologize to Chief and Chief. I took the liberty and, machinery and equipment, I bumped that down to 100,000 because I was trying to come up with 10,000. The chief is at a training in Poland, and he emailed me back, and I put that 10,000 back in there. So that's why on the one you have, I have changed because I put that back in there. And
Which one?
machinery and equipment, they've got a lot planned, and I'll turn it over to Deputy Chief there.
So after talking with Chief Full in the last couple of days, we're trying to figure out somewhere else to cut that we haven't cut already. Like I said, y'all know everybody's cutting, everybody started at a certain place and has had to come down. Our vehicle line has already taken a $90,000 hit on where we started. It would be very difficult. She's doing her best to not go into the next year with a zeroed out vehicle line. The best $10,000 does for us is might be able to get a light bar or a push bumper back on a vehicle that gets wrecked or damaged, and that's about all $10,000 is going to do for us. Fortunately, we were able to get a couple of vehicles in this budget year, so we're not necessarily hurting for new vehicles. But the $10,000 would at least get us to be able to hopefully repair something that might be damaged.
Would that be machinery and equipment also?
Machinery and equipment, our concern with that is we actually had to pull money from machinery and equipment and put it in professional services. So when Jim got with us today about taking the $10,000 out, I'll go ahead and tell you what Chief Pullen told me. She said, yeah, they can take it out and put it in professional services. Cause we had to pull from that line to beef up professional services. So it's trying to figure out where to cut with everything that we have planned to spend, as Jim said. So, machinery and equipment, some of the things we have coming up is the new metal detector for the courtroom that we're gonna, by hopefully in the next couple of weeks, I'm about to get a quote on that for $5,000. 2 MDTs, those are modal and data terminals for vehicles that are basically in-car computers. We still have officers that don't have any computers in their cars. We are still doing our best to get every officer the equipment that they actually need. We still have officers that don't have tasers, but that's gonna come out of machinery and equipment. Body cams for next year, the 10 that we're not gonna be able to buy this budget year, That's gonna come out of machinery and equipment. We're just having a hard time figuring out how to cut it.
But you do have some body cams in the budget to buy this year.
Correct. Yes, sir.
How many?
We do. We're gonna buy 33. Now, the grant that we had set up and approved for to purchase half of those, to pay for half of the cost, we're not gonna get that grant approved before August 1st. Okay, so we're gonna make the first body cam purchase of 33, and that will include 2 in-car cameras for the DUI units, out of pocket. We're just gonna pay for those with what we have in our budget this year. We're gonna use the grant that is going to be approved after October 1st, purchase an additional 10, and that'll get us to the number that we. Now, that grant will still only cover half of the purchase price, but we'll be able to cover the rest of it out of, well, machinery and equipment.
What percentage have you already come down? Is it 1% or more?
No, it's not 1%.
It's the red is what they needed to come down on, so.
And the two spots that we were, the 2 spots that we were looking at was vehicles and machinery and equipment, and those are the 2, the reason I'm focusing on 2, those 2 is because those were the spots we were trying to figure out a way to find it. Jim, do you have the number for the wages and salaries that instead of the T1 and T2 was just the wage increase for the T3 position? Do you happen to have that handy? Because that was the one she was really dead set on. The $2,100 for everybody, and the increase for T3 is what we were really pushing for. Wait a minute, I've got it. 4,941,699. I mean, it doesn't drop it much.
Yeah, and that's the number she gave me.
Okay, so that's a roundup.
Yeah,
Okay.
I round up things because
The top number?
Okay, so that is actually for the T3 raise and not the T1 and T2. It should be.
yeah,
Okay.
sorry,
It's okay.
I apologize. She originally had T1, T2, T3, and then, supervised, yeah, so that is only leaving T3, so they dropped that salary line.
Okay, so that's the number for 2,100 across the board except for T3.
So, hey Jim, so when we were trying to get everybody competitive across the county, did we overlooked it?
Years I think here, because I told AJ if we didn't need to bring down the salary.
Mayor, sorry to interrupt, but I think I need to recuse myself when we're discussing dispatch.
Oh, yeah, I mean, I wasn't gonna. Miss AJ actually did it, but I didn't have to pull it out because we were gonna do 2,100s, but we've done that every year. And we've done multiple different increases for different departments, but still as a whole, if I had Miss AJ's here, every single department would not be comparable to others around the county, but, I mean, I did, 2 or 3 years ago, I did create another column, which I put in all the city's budgets, like what the parks budget was, what's public work, what the police budget was, and did a comparison on here's what budgets they handle, here's what would get us comparable, but nothing was done with that. So we're still way off in just about every department, if you compare us to the other municipalities. Really, the only one, if you compare it to Hernando, we're about the same place.
Olive Branch's budget proposed for the coming year is $129 million. So we can't compare.
No.
We just need to move on. We just need to move on.
Well, I just want to be equitable to each department. We overlooked this these dispatchers when we was doing it, then we need to go back and correct that.
Yeah, I mean, just for instance, I know one that sticks in my head. I mean, if you compare us to Hernando, which is about the same budget, their planning director makes 96,000. I'm using one, and sorry, Andrew, but, and I know, no. Um, same size of our population that's higher
We got about 2,000.
than Hernando, but if you just compare that, their planning director makes 96.
We trained that guy.
Yeah. Sorry.
It's okay.
Taking over.
You know, if I may, you're right, there's no way we can compare salaries to other municipalities. I think this city and this board has done a fantastic job over the last couple of years trying to get the pay up for everybody. And it's very much appreciated. I would be, especially for our dispatcher. One of the reasons we fight so hard for them is because they take care of all of us. They're just not a police entity. They dispatch and they handle calls for every single department in this whole city. What I would like to compare is the actual workload that they handle compared to a Hernando. Hernando makes more money, or comparatively the same amount. We handle 2 times, maybe 3 times the call volume. And so it's not so much a matter of whether they're getting paid as much as another municipality, because that's okay. We're not even asking for that. Because if we did that across the board, none of us are making what we should. And that's not what we're asking for. But for the work that these dispatchers put in and for the years that they put in, that's why we're justifying that pay raise just because of what they do. I believe last year's, I'm gonna estimate, so this isn't a perfect number, I apologize, but last year, I believe our call volume was about 23,000 calls, so. Okay, that was for the year 2023. January to July of this year, 22,000 calls. So we are nearly double the amount of calls that we're fielding this year compared to last year already. And we're halfway in August.
But
So,
they get paid by the hour.
yes,
So I get paid by the hour.
absolutely.
So does it matter if one call comes in or?
No, not outside of just how hard they work while they're here. That's it.
Sir?
And just as how hard they work when they're here, and that's the only difference. You're right, you're right.
Good job.
Sure, I understand.
So, just at those numbers right there, that doesn't reflect the T1, it just reflects.
You know, T1 and T2 would be the 2,100. And the T3 would be the only one getting the extra pay increase.
And we don't have the T3 on.
That is the T3 fee.
On it.
Yes, sir.
So, we're good with these numbers right
Yes, sir.
here. Which one is T3?
The top tier dispatch, the top. Yes, sir.
So. we're really- I'm not saying they don't deserve it, but we're arguing about.
It's already built in, we're good, right?
Yeah, but it's for the.
Number 9,000.
All right, so you're reflecting it down there. Saying 7,000,789, and then the red number is the number we're needing? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Yes.
How many T3 do you have?
But I was
So
talking about,
we're not that far.
but if I'm talking about when you said you want to give the T3 more than 2,100, then you go back to this column and give her.
Been there long. I didn't mean. 8, I think it's about 83. I'd have to go kind of neat. It's about 8.
We're not putting him on.
No, you can do that.
But I'm just telling you what you're talking about, not 8 employees
I believe I'd have to.
right now. And then next week it'll be 4 more.
All of a sudden they get promoted?
Yeah.
So what we're faced here with is the board requested everybody to get $2,100 raise. Some departments put in more. despite what the board replaced. If y'all wanna go along with that, that's great, that's fine, but we gotta find a different, some.
Did you guys do your one?
No, we're not getting to it, but we gotta make a decision.
Zeroing out the views, and then we get it close.
Close, okay. Right.
We're about 11,000.
About what?
We zeroed out our office supplies, it wasn't much, but we zeroed that out.
What's your?
Where's that? What line item you looking at?
I mean, I thought that's what we said at the last meeting, $2,100. 1%, what was out. 2,100 we discussed at the last. That, right. And the thing keeps running through my head, whether it's dispatch, whoever. You got the fire department here, for what, 3,800, how many hours a year?
3,000. Their salaries paid 3,058. But that's their basic on their overtime.
So,
that's their
anyway, they can get 40,
66.
66, right,
You're okay.
across the board. So, how do we sit here and say that somebody who is going to go into a burning house, or say somebody from a car wreck, 66 cents an hour is all you get? Or somebody who's gonna, God forbid, stop somebody and somebody's gonna pull a gun on them, that you're only gonna get $2,100 a year more. It don't make sense to me.
No, it doesn't.
It does not make sense to me. We said $2,100. Now, I know, I understand, I appreciate everybody fighting for the people. That's what they should be doing. I'd be doing the same, I'd be doing the same thing in their world. But reality is reality. We put $694,000 in our budget this year that we didn't have last year. Just put it out there. And we're having to bite the bullet. PERS has increased dramatically. Everybody this year is not going to get Santa Claus. We can't do this. We have got to have a balanced budget. So I'm gonna sit here and say $2,100 across the board, regardless of what they want. And we'll go back and pull the money from where we gotta pull the money to balance the budget. And that's where I'm at. I mean, it's just.
Well, y'all keep beating us over the head with this 2,100 and we said this and that. What we were looking at originally was 2,100 plus these other items figured in there. Not cutting them yet. But with $200,000 different. We had made no commitment as a board of doing that yet.
That's right.
We had. And that's what we're here to do tonight. So you don't need to be beating us over the head and saying that we agreed to it, because we had.
The only thing I said on the plan, to refresh your memory, was that we agreed on $2,100. That's what we talked about. That's what we asked everybody to put in. And the mayor sent out an email last Friday, asking every department to cut 1%, because we had almost a $220,000 deficit.
Got you. And
that ain't monopoly. That is hard, cold, hard cash. We've got to come up with.
And I agree with it. That 1% is a good idea.
But nobody said we agreed on anything. That's why we're sitting here, and I agree with that. But we did say $2,100 out of the board. That's what we did say. That's what I said. So let's not, but.
All right, let's move on. We're just gonna get. All right. So nobody wants to take any money from the police department. Is that correct?
See when they can cut it.
So we always got Ms. Tara fall back, when we take it out of that 30,000. Get to it. Yeah. Okay, next page, please.
Good guy. Oh, the guy's still, he's standing in the corner. We forgot about it. Hey, through.
Actually, most of that's police. I think that was the point. On the $2,100 across the board.
Nobody went along with you. Does anybody wanna make sure, with Alderman, Young's discussion, that the raises at the police department should be $2,100 each position? Or you want to allow the police department to increase the T3 position more than $2,100? Alderman Klein.
That's the one I want.
How many of y'all agree with Alderman Klein about increasing it more than, we got 1, 2, 3, 4. All right. Next page, please. Fire and
Is it
EMS.
reflected here?
So we're still what? If we took them out anywhere for the police department,
We're $9,000 short.
I said, I'm.
still down this
It's
way.
already
We did up with plenty.
We're gonna get there. We'll get there.
Is that, Alderman Johnson's just asking, that budget in the, what we just saw for the police, is that T3 built into that already?
Yes, T3.
It's the 4,942,000 increases. So I mistyped the, D1 and D2.
How much is that number? Yeah,
Yeah, I'm sorry,
How much you think for his chief?
I have that spreadsheet.
The 2550 for T3.
How much was
23, so it was 23,
it?
32, something like that, 22, $23. 84.
84. I mean, 40 hours a week, two is 8. 163, or more.
Once they came to a 4% increase to it, percentage-wise, so it came to.
What's the difference? Pay scale between T3?
Okay, we're on fire and EMS. And I know Chief Wimbledon. All you gonna get.
I did 1%. I'm just gonna tell you, police are out. Well, police ain't police culture. Maybe a few hundred, than one, a little more. But the 1%, but it is just $2,100 for everybody in the fire. I mean, fire now. There was nothing extra in that. We did cut professional services. I mean, we were at 90 last year. It looks like we're gonna make it this year. So we did include, well, I did cut 10 out of that, cause it was 110. And then we dropped machinery and equipment, it was 145, so we dropped it to 133. That's our cuts. And then what we cut out of workman's comp. And the original one up there on the longevity, it should have been 61.6, and our other sheet said 61.4, so we was 200 short there. We had to bump that up 200. That's what just to meet the longevity pay, it had to be 61.6.
Good job, Chief.
I don't know if it's a good job. We need more. I didn't even know we got this email. Jim didn't include me in y'all's email. I didn't get this till Monday. I didn't get it.
Oh, it was actually 1%.
He sent it to you, Dave. I didn't get it. I get the email. He didn't feel bad being here. But I was already. We'd love to add another 20 or 30,000 if we found it. But I'm good, Mayor, unless there's any other questions.
Anybody have any questions to Chief Linville?
Mayor, I have one.
Yes, sir.
Slightly related. On your training facility, are there grants available for things for that?
What now?
Are there grants available to help you with your training?
Oh, I won't say there won't be. I mean, you could probably apply for some grant. We haven't gotten a grant for it, but yeah, there could be some grants if we get some way to.
That's something you guys have really needed for a long time.
Yeah, we do have the concrete pour. We're waiting on the boxes and maybe we can get the police to throw 25,000 in there too, so we can get some of their money. Look, we're still coming after money with police.
We'll work on it. We'll see what we can do.
They may not do it this year, but maybe next year. I don't know. It's gonna crawl for a little bit. I mean, I won't. But we do have some more concrete to pour where we get the fire truck and vehicles up to it. All we actually poured was a pad to put the boxes on. And our developer out there that's putting in the subdivision that we all don't want there. But he has really helped us with a lot of dirt work clearing up. He's still coming back to do some more. He helped make us a lot of that we didn't have to pay for. As far as the pads and clearing all that up, it's been like, we catch the dozer running, we use them a few hours every time we catch them out there.
Good, good. Does anybody have anything else suggestion? Changes. All right, it's total code enforcement. Well, Alderman Bledsoe was out, I'm gonna stand up a minute. Excuse me.
I mean, I'll go over that. I did cut some areas in professional services, furniture, equipment, machinery. We could go a little more. It was, fairly close to, it actually went below the 1%, just shy, just a little bit.
You remember that Alderman Klein, they're taking it more.
We were supposed to come down to 459,142. We came down to 159.90. Again, this is kind of like the IT budget. It's gonna be a guess. Hopefully you all are hiring more code. How we work out vehicles, I don't know, because once we get fully staffed in code, we're gonna need 6 trucks. And right now we have 5. So, I can tell you that we'll be pushing it on the fuel and oil, but I don't want to. Right now, that's really 3 trucks going. We did get Henry back, but we're soon gonna have 5 and hopefully 6 trucks going. We may go over in the gas line, but may have to pull it from somewhere else in this part.
So you're saying they only have 5 vehicles left?
Well, Belinda and I talked about it, and you all are hiring, and we're interviewing next Wednesday. Interviewing some more. Anytime somebody comes on, if they buddy with Belinda or Brandon, who sees any people, and they train them, so they're in the vehicle with them for several months before we start place anyway. So we're hoping the timing will work where after next year we can order another truck and get all of them in the vehicles. But it's we're probably not going to get them all hired until into next budget year. But that 292,300 is for fully staffed 6 people in code. Yes, sir.
One thing, what we used to do, we used to put trucks from another department, they got a new truck, they bring, if it's decent. The first truck I had, the door come off the first day I retired. So, borrowed one, Toyota, you ever seen me try to get it? Anyway, we borrowed, not borrowed, one company to the other. Until we get back where we were, Chick-fil-A's coming.
Yeah, those are few and far between. We're getting less vehicles. I mean, last year, police did give Parks and Mr. Glenn a truck.
Fire gave Ian the IT truck.
Yeah, so they're few and far
And
between.
then we
and-
give the police.
Did we still get stuff? Keith, did we still do the drug? If we seize one, then we.
That's all right.
Oh, you're welcome. But, you know, we used to get the drug trucks that we confiscate, and then we put them in. I had a good one in Guinea, so. Anyway, they have some good ones sometimes. And I'll do a better job.
So,
Right,
yeah, that sees more trucks.
I mean, our code enforcement just constantly goes up and down. And I wonder just how many code enforcement we have throughout the year. This is based on having 5 or 6.
6.
See,
And we probably average, what, 4?
Yeah, right now,
Yeah, okay, I got a question. I know this is an estimate because it's a new department under professional services. You have 19,000. What professional services do they, this code you? Just out of curiosity.
Well, I mean, they do, and Andrew can speak to this too. I kind of split the professional services, but some of that is asking Billy advice on how do we handle this situation. How does this fit along with our ordinances, and how can we go about, what's the best way to go about handling this difficult situation with this person without getting in a lawsuit? And then any other, contracts we have. Right now, they all use the same printer that's at planning, so that's a printer. That could, be a high number, but if you look at everybody else's professional services and what we try to get out of that.
And I know on some, I know what it is.
Well, you all, plug in for Mr. Billy. He is well worth his, services that you all, agreed to. I don't know what we would do without him, it's kept us out of many difficult situations.
So, since we only average about 4 code enforcement, and we only have 5 vehicles, can we not just put a freeze on that 6th one and just hire, go with 5 for this year? And use that extra to make up.
Well, we were just going off of what we've heard from the board all year, that you want at least 1 per ward.
Right.
That's been repeated over and over, so we were trying to get it up to 6. And really, it is gonna be 5. Cause if Belinda is truly a supervisor over 5 people, she really needs to be doing some more supervisory things and keeping them on track, going back and looking at their stuff. And if she's really doing that, she's gonna be less out in the street as she is right now, so. But, I mean, it's up to you. We've heard it from about all of them. 1, to move it as their own department and get at least 6 and have 1 in per ward.
All in Blitzo.
Well, one thing that we could do, we need some at nighttime. Because these folks come home and their code's gone and they're parking in the yards and everywhere else. And I've been fighting that for a long time, especially down 2-lane road. There's cars parked in there, and it makes it junky looking. So you're probably gonna have a couple of work at night, which that will take care of you swapping vehicles out like the police used to do before they got here.
They need someone to weekend.
Yes, so that will take care of your extra vehicle.
Like we got one business.
Just Saturday. What Saturday, not Sunday? No nighttime.
No. I just said, you know, stretch my leg, figure, think I just stretch my leg. But we do anything different on coding? Thank you. Okay, next one.
Street department, as I mentioned,
Cut that each.
you can,
You've
already cut me.
I didn't get my truck.
You can see the red highlighted italics number there is 1,630,000 is what they had to come down to, and they went below that.
40,000.
Wow. So.
Alright.
And actually, I did the same thing with Mr. Box that I did with Andrew. He actually cut more than that, but I really didn't feel comfortable with that, because again, he cut some of the professional services, and that's where we're paying this grass cutting company. And obviously you see his salaries are reduced because we're not gonna fill, we cut 3 positions out of the street department, because of the contract with the grass cutting bids. So if we keep cutting professional services there, we're not gonna be able to pay that company.
Right.
And again, I'd already mentioned that, and it's not highlighted because I've been removing some highlights, but the street and traffic lights, you know, you see that big jump, that 424,000, the board approved the signalization of Nail and Interstate Boulevard when Mr. Vince brought that up. We originally had no place to pay that out of, but it's right there now, so. That has to remain at that amount, or we're not gonna be able to put those signal lights up at Nail and Interstate Boulevard. I don't think it needs to be.
Alderman Bledsoe.
I just have one question. How is your grant crew working out? Are they doing all right?
Yeah, they're doing.
And are you expecting them to go up on their price next year?
Well, I mean, I haven't heard anything about it, you know, I put that in there too, you know,
Okay.
in case they did, you know,
Yeah.
I bet 3%.
And that's why I was worried, usually grant, they go up 10% every year.
That's why you get it out.
I know, I used to go grant.
He's done this crap.
Yeah, it's well
He's
below
overcut.
the 1%.
Thanks, that needs to vote back in.
6 of them are fine.
6 in there? What, Bob died?
Yeah, put the sleeps. She had mastitis and FIV. AIDS for cats. And then she had an infection in her teeth. Her milk was poisoned. Yeah, right.
Good luck on it.
Thank you, sorry, I know that. They have all in once. They found that hair on. They're not made it.
Okay. We're control.
Okay. What are your thoughts about us, Joe?
Yeah, the red number is below, sorry, yeah, it is, they did cut below, cause the black bold, number is in 565,130. They only needed to come down to 565,408, so. They cut out of, building and equipment, cut 5,000 out of there. So the training and work is not.
And I do have a proposal.
Yes, sir.
As far as the workman's, I propose that, we start using a scale, a behavioral scale, to determine whether or not we should hold on to animals who we can identify as being behaviorally unsound. I think that all of our claims were due to injuries that came from vicious animals. And if we can try to eliminate that, then we can maybe come down on what we have there for that. But that is gonna require us being able to make that decision based off of something that a format that we have. If those things qualify, we should be able to automatically let them go.
Well, Mr. Molino's nice enough, anytime they're either euthanizing an animal, he sends it over to me, cause I have to sign it on. All I've done is sign off the ones that are too sick or too vicious, like Luigi. Luigi leaves like people back to feed. And so, what, sir,
I mean, our workman's comp is based on a scale for each department, but they don't drill down and look at, okay, animal control had 16 bites, police department had, these many altercations, fire had so many people injured rushing into a building. They base it on like a local and national scale. They don't drill down on Parks Department ran their mower into one of the poles and he.
Thank God.
So this won't change. Workman's comp will change if you hire more people or you give increase, give raises. It is based on employees and what they make. And then the industry scale that they base police departments, fire departments, high risk areas. Animal control is a high risk area. But it's really not gonna change this year unless we hire more people. If you hire a staff person, it's gonna go up, cause you're insuring another staff person. But this number is based on you being fully staffed and the numbers that everybody has turned in, code being fully staffed. And if you don't approve to fill some of these positions, it may go down. You're not saying you wanna give up a position.
No.
Okay. I wouldn't wanna touch utilities because when you get in the new shelter, it's probably it's 12,000 square feet, you're in what? Four. So it's probably gonna go up. If we move in June, we're gonna have June, July, August, September, 4 months in a triple the size facility.
It may go down though, cause, they're just running air conditioners full bore over the, all that.
Yeah.
That you don't know what utilities are gonna do or going up, whatever.
Well, this facility does have multiple components that the old facility doesn't. It has different exchanges, besides the air unit has different exchanges that circulate. So you're gonna go from, some air units and window units to bigger units and some exchange units that suck the air out again and multiple things. So I don't know. It's
No, that's
it's-
the water.
it's-
No water.
okay, we're still looking for dollars. Next one is.
Yeah, this puts it on 2 pages. So you've got this does have 2 columns. The 25 requests column was that first column that was presented that had everybody at 2,100 except Miss Leslie, I had mentioned we have, 2 or 3 staff that, by the federal law has to go up, salary people have to go up to, a higher amount this next year, so Miss Leslie gets we can't do anything about that, she gets a bigger bump. And that's reflected in the second to the last column, Mr. Drew can talk about, he had mentioned, Austin, that's his last column. And I'll go down here, and you can kind of see where the red is where needed to get to. And I mentioned, Mr. Drew, in his column and the other column, they're both under the 1%. He went well past that. With either column you choose, but I'm sure Drew wants to talk about the last column over there.
Yes, sir. So if we count, I think we've got the solution to tonight's problem. We just need that 9,000, right?
Yep.
So if we could, because I believe that I can come before this board and request out of economic development if I need something on building improvement side, such as a parking lot or a fence. So if we could, we can just drop this right here by 5,000, and then drop in the 510 budget, drop the umpires by 4,000, because we still have a lot there.
Umpires too short,
Sir?
you gotta be cutting the umpires. You still got.
Well, we still got the 90,000 in the 501. So, but that's where we could cut there. But I just, if we can scroll back up, I am wanting to get this right here, this number right here, this 469.
Want that, but you're willing to give up how much elsewhere that.
To just balance the budget, and we'll be.
$4,000.
Out of the building improvements.
Balance the budget.
Sure.
Yes, and that way I can come before y'all if I need a major project, then I can come before y'all and request that. Through economic development.
That's mighty generous of you.
That's a.
You know, everybody else keep going up.
Oh, we will still be 5,000 short.
Okay, we got.
Because that number is based on the second to the last column, the 1,261,651.
Right.
The 16,000 is based on that number, and his last column is 1,266,995. So that's about 5,000 difference still.
He's net giving us about 2,000.
How do we get that?
Well, if you scroll back up, I guess, so they can see the wages and salaries line at the top. Drew wants 469, that one, Jim has them at 462 now.
Oh, let's see.
So he just moved. Those 2,000.
So he's wanting $7,000 more. So it's about like you said, $2 million.
Well, the difference between those two is about 5,000. The 1,061,651 is the column that comes up with we're short 16,000. The column Drew is hoping to get right here is 1,266. So if you move that over, we're still 5,000 short, unless somebody else wants to.
That's good. Okay, so Mr. Drew is offered to give up $5,000. But in return, Mr. Drew, you want to increase Mr. Austin's salary?
Yes, sir. 2205 an hour.
How much is it now?
He makes 1805.
So $2 an hour.
Four.
What you say? 14, oh, and then 20 to 4, right? $4 an hour, was 160 a week. It's almost a $7,000 rate.
he's my number 3. You know, he's my athletic director. He's in charge of all my events and everything. And he's still well short. I know y'all don't want to hear this, but he's still well short of the other cities. Big time.
I know you explained to me just what he did. I was amazed, maybe for your selling point, you could tell the board what all he does for you.
He's at my school all the time.
What does he do? What's his job, Mr. Green?
He's the athletic director, so he's in charge of all of that, the athletic events. He does the 2 basketball leagues, he does the spring baseball, he does the football, he's in charge of handling all the coaches, handling all the complaints, he does the drafts. He does field, he checks on the fields, make sure they're in regulation. He gives advice on any of that. If we need any improvements on the field, he's in charge of equipment.
Hey Drew, what do you do?
Who delegates authority?
It's just the athletic side, so the parks department has most of the side.
Come back. You do everything else. I think that's a generous offer on this part. Yeah. Giving something to get something. And just like with the other ones, it's people that need to be, individuals that need to be adjusted to where they need to be.
Does anybody want to see if we need to accept Mr. Drew's proposal, or would y'all like to discuss it more? Who wants to? 5,000. It really just got around 2,000.
He proposed.
9,000.
So I already did that. This line was 120 right here, and I dropped it all the way. So I needed to cut 13,000 for 1%. So I did that, and then I cut again to fill that spot for wages there. But then I'm also willing to get this down even more to balance the budget, as well as this umpire here, and then we'll be good.
Why so little money spent on the umpires out of so much budget? Is it just been less games?
Yes, sir. Tournaments need to make.
Tournament umpires get paid a lot more than the regular season game. And you have a lot more of them.
So you're willing to give up 5,000 on the park supplies and 4,000 on the umpires?
On 5,000 more in building improvements there.
Building improvements? Okay, I see, I'm on the wrong line.
What about those trophies, awarded trophies?
I need every penny of that.
Yeah, they have.
I need every penny of the trophies.
Yes, they quote anyway.
Okay.
Just give trophies for first and second place, and all the participation involved. All the guys.
I know you've given a lot already here, just on machinery and equipment, you got a lot left this year. Are you expecting some big purchases on the next one?
On the next-
replacing equipment,
On next board, I'll have a piece of equipment that.
that will take up most of it?
Yes.
Johnson.
Mr. Coleman, what is the merchandise and resale?
We used to, when we hosted Dizzy D tournaments, merchandise and resale was, when we purchased the shirts and everything, and then we'd sell those out.
Okay.
Can I have any formal show of hands on, did y'all want to accept Mr. Drew's proposal? So taking that one, giving Mr. Austin a big raise?
One thing.
Let's see.
Next year when it comes around, this raise will be included in this thing out of your budget.
Yeah, I'm gonna,
Because that's what we worried about next year, it's gonna be even tougher than this year. Okay, man.
I'll apply it. You had some.
No, that's showing a hand.
Oh,
All right, how many of y'all want to accept Mr. Drew's proposal? Cutting that budget, increasing Mr. Austin's salary by $7,000.
Is Jim okay with it? We got it?
Well, we're still gonna be short over $3,000.
Reading it out.
We're getting closer, yeah.
Favor, how many are, how many in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. All right, next one, we still gotta find $3,000. Admin. That's us.
No, it's not really, it's overhead, that takes care of the whole, yeah.
Just trying to lighten things up a little bit.
I have no suggestions there. Some, lines that were already over for the year. The whole bottom half, all those numbers are set. Those are, projects that, that Vince and I have gone over and over and over the numbers. Those will not change. Our sanitation contract, $2,060,000. That's taken in if, you know, the increase with CPI and everything. As I had mentioned, the insurance, has gone up. So that's why that one has changed. It jumped over 120,000. Some of the other lines, you know, may look like they are, we have a lot left, but they hit different times of the year where, the fees to the county, that line is small right now, but, we get a lot of that stuff hitting, and notoriously every year we get to about 150,000 in that.
We get down to 150,000?
No, we end up paying, that. It usually runs true with the fee for the county jail, because every time, and we have to pay, what, $32 a day for every prisoner?
Plus me.
35. So the more crime we have, you know, Chief just talked about how many calls they're getting. That number, you know, this year may go over 160,000, and I kept it at 160,000. You know, they've got twice as many calls already, this year. I can imagine we're gonna be paying quite a bit for jail fees.
that's the cost of being a pro police.
Yeah,
County.
yeah, I mean, it costs, to have a safe city, and to be honest with you, that number, I've always thought has been low. They do a good job of trying to keep people, Ms. Tara tries to keep people out of jail as few a days as they can. And Judge Murphy, they try to run them through the system where we're not sitting there paying $35, $36 a day.
The flip side of that, if they know they're not gonna go to jail, like, they can be repeat criminal.
Yeah.
Somebody in the audience, something, what you talking about? What did y'all say, Horn Lake was rated, what, the safe city of 214?
On the 1003.
We used to be the seventh safest in Mississippi.
Just several years ago.
It was on 1003.
I didn't see it, they never telling me.
It depends on what, there's different, statistics out there from different groups, and different groups have it all rated. I don't know where that one came from.
Well, I won't make it bad too.
Never been low. Where?
Okay. Total admin. Oh.
am I reading this right? We took 101,000 out of sidewalks, and we need sidewalks, to make this budget. And we took 700,000 out of our street project, to make this budget. Is that right?
It looks like to me.
And that is based on the actual project.
Right. I'm saying we did that to make the budget.
No, we're gonna end up spending that 230,000.
So it's 59, or you took 59,000, like,
Yeah, that's next year.
I think.
Right. Vince has projected next year on that project, we're only gonna spend 59,000. The following year, it's gonna catch up. We're gonna have to spend it.
It's just for that one.
Well, I understand.
So it's not cut, the 230,000 still
What
sitting
I,
there and right.
I'm just saying, as bad as we need sidewalk. And places that we need sidewalk,
Yeah,
I mean, that's amazing.
that's just
I understand what it is.
a certain project that we've got going. If we get more projects
The
going,
street projects, 100,000. And that's based on what?
based on what Vince anticipates, well, and you're looking at the 3,000,910. Yeah, that's what we had built up in that last year.
Right.
We don't have that much built up in it this year because we're paving streets.
Right, but what I'm saying is the tax money from the internet sales, you said was up to what?
It's gonna be that 3,200,000.
Right.
Cover that.
So we increased it last year, but we decreased it this year, even though it went up.
Yeah, it's only based on Vince's, projected projects that we can get done in 25. If he thought we could get more, when I meet with him, that would have been a higher number.
Right, I'm just really amazed as bad as our street is that it's not.
Well,
I don't.
you've got a spring and summer, fall window that you can only pave, so, and I'm trusting that Vince is.
That's the standard, it's saying it's a program for 5 years and you're probably gonna average 3 million a year. Spending like $15 million. So, I mean, we're on target for what we originally set it up for.
Yeah, and it's actually gonna go longer than, it's gonna go as long as the internet sales funds.
Right, I mean, we're gonna reevaluate and keep on moving, but it's managed in a 5-year.
Have we done $230,000 worth of sidewalk repair?
No. That was that's a set project that we are collaborating with, EWP. We got $990,000 for that sidewalk going from Kroger back to, this has been a multiple year project that Vince has been working on, and it's finally come to fruition. But it's
Along, Horn Lake
Harley
Road.
Road.
They hadn't started that yet. No. So the money there is earmarked. It's done.
And it was there the previous year, it's just like if we do an MDOT project or start with MDOT, 5 years later, you're gonna do the. Because it takes so long when you are working with different groups. Yeah, it's finally, all the papers are signed and we're moving forward. And that's what Vince is projecting to spend on it next year. But, he does a Excel spreadsheet and he's got 25, 26, and 27, and we've got figures on all those years out 3 years. And there's another column for the sidewalk project that has more funds in it, as well as those other projects. Explain it, so.
How much you looking for?
5,000.
So it's down to 3.
Keep going up.
Well, you know, we talked about it in these other ones, but if we never, did it in Ms. Tara's, if you accept her, her other column over there, it's higher than the column with 2,100, so, you know, there is another $1,000 difference there or something.
But, no, I thought what we did in Ford was cut 6 out of the 30,
So now, done.
so I don't think they were even looking at the right column. That's my understanding.
So you got one thing.
That's not what was decided earlier, it was something that they were reducing to 6.
Some people don't.
I would have
My,
majority.
I agree. With that.
What you got so far is, what, 1,000 out of planning, 9,000 out of parts, 6,000 out of court?
Well, it's really not 9 out of part, because he wants 5344 more, so his net is what we're getting out of part, 3656.
We get about 4. So, like 10, we still gotta get about $6,000. 6 grand. So there you go. So you've already got 6 out of there. If you take another 6, that leaves 12, that leaves 18,000 in that line.
That's what we started with
Yeah.
about an hour and a half ago.
Yes.
So
Is that what you do?
Only place to cut it right now.
But you know what's gonna happen, is Ms. Tar's gonna take that money and give those raises. But she,
not if we take that money and don't, I mean, why? I mean, why would, anyway.
What? That's true, Mayor, they leave it on contract personnel line.
if they leave, never she wanna come back. Change it, then, but y'all can always answer yea or nay when she does. Cause we're not voting on this tonight, we're gonna.
That's a good point, Mayor. Whatever we decide tonight is to change, to, actually vote on a budget.
We need to start these meetings by 4 o'clock.
So is everybody are satisfied, let me put it that way.
So what did we decide?
Yeah.
Something.
Me too.
What do we decide?
12 out of that 30 is what I have.
Contractor. But it's on contract personnel already, it's 30, we're just gonna take it down to 18.
So you're gonna leave it there and she can't put it on wages.
Well, she can move some of her other. Machinery, we can do some of that. Yeah, she can move some of her. Yeah, she can.
A long time ago, the city machinery do that. They just moved it away from the board, didn't use it.
Office supplies.
But you have to, anytime they want to make a budget transfer, they have to present it to the board, and you have to approve it. Like you had all that stuff. So if you leave that contract, if I'm right, Mr. Bill, if you leave that contract, if she wants to take it, put it on wages, she's gotta make her case for the board.
So there's one of those.
Well, there's no need to take a vote, is it? Nothing to vote on, I think.
No, I will remind everybody, and it's not tonight, but when we finally decide on a budget, everything has to be narrowed down on what you're gonna do with salaries, because we break down every single line, so if the board votes to go above the 2,100, you will need to know exactly what you want to do, because we have to break it down in the minutes. We've been doing this for years, every single person's breakdown in their increase, so.
Like if Mr. Drew wants to do that large increase, has to increase in Medicare and everything else. All right, and, retirement.
It's awful
Give me that, you gotta figure what, 17.9% just for her.
Well, I mean, just, sorry, I didn't mean to get off on that, but, you know, the last column for Drew does, I mean, I changed the amounts, um, for the FICA, and the state retirement was okay. I didn't need to bump that up for that higher amount, but the FICA did go, you can see 36,700 to 37,500 for the higher amount, so.
Just remember, when y'all give somebody a big raise, affect their, the PERS, cause we got an actual, what, 17.9 now, or what it is.
Well, the 19 next year, right? So you do have that on your second column, you have that calculated in there in case that's what we want.
That's the big raise Drew was talking about, I don't think.
Yeah, I believe it's reflected in the. I'll have to go back and check it.
So,
I should talk to a few of the department heads. I was talking to Mr. Box, and he was saying there was a line item in utilities that they probably won't use. What line item was that?
The lift stations rebuild.
89,000?
It doesn't affect the operating.
It doesn't come in the list.
well, thank y'all. It's been, it's been interesting, I think we got a lot settled. That brings us to a balanced budget, Mr. Jim, Mr. Billy. Do y'all want to take a break before we go into executive session? Yeah, let's do, let's correct. I know you, well, that'll make us go quick.
I'm ready to go home.
Hey, buddy.
Hey, and I was 14, I got 14,000.
About, the road that has.
We have a motion for the proposed application. Have a motion on the. Roll call, please.
Aye.
Foster. Alderman Guy. Alderman Bledsoe.
Aye.
Alderman Klein.
Motion carries 7-0. Y'all be kind enough to step out. Mr. Glenn, you can go home.